Welcome to a recipe storage box tutorial. I'm Charee Filimoehala here at the Graphic 45 office, and I am excited for you to recreate our storage recipe box. This box is super cute and comes with a pull-out drawer that's going to be fabulous for storing your extra recipe cards, pens, or other doodads in there. And then you can see it also highlights our antique brass claw feet. It uses them beautifully, and it's going to be a nice display piece in your home. Along with that, in a separate tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to create these recipe divider cards. These are going to be great for keeping you organized in your recipe box, or you can always use them in unique ways by adding them onto a card front or making it into a mini album. Both of these projects this month have been created for us by the fabulous Annette Green. And Annette Green this month has gone above and beyond and even designed this chipboard kit for us. So I'm excited for you to be receiving these kits in the mail, where you'll be getting your already cut chipboard kit that will just be decorating and adhering together, along with our Home Sweet Home Deluxe Collector's Edition, where you get 24 double-sided papers in there, chipboard and stickers, and then of course our antique claw feet. So if you're not already a Club G45 subscriber, you can go ahead and hop on over to our website, g45papers.com, and become a subscriber. Or if you want to just pick up this kit, you can do that there as well. We also have a store locator on our website to help all of our wonderful G45ers out there find our products and our kits. So go ahead and do that. Grab your supplies and let's start creating this fabulous recipe box. The first thing you're always going to want to do when starting one of our project sheets is checking out the supply list and the notes section. The notes oftentimes give you some really good hints to some things that might be specific to this project, such as, because we are using a chipboard kit, there are a few pieces that are labeled. The majority of them are not. So as the notes suggest, just to follow along with the photo examples to make sure you're using the right pieces. Also, it is nice to make sure that you read the instructions first, or each step first, before you start adhering things on, to make sure that you're doing it in the proper order. And like I always like to do when I'm creating a craft project or even a recipe, I like to read the whole thing through and get the gist of all the notes and everything that the author is talking about. And then when I create my project, I have a little more ease and I know what I'm doing that way. So just a little helpful hint on how to proceed. But this is going to be a super fun project to create, so let's get started. For step one, we are going to take Farmer's Market, and we are cutting this to be 6 3/4 by 6 3/4. And then we're taking our chipboard back piece. You know it's the one because it's got the nice scallop at the top. We are going to just be doing some nice and simple tracing. So just align this flush on the left and right hand side, and then give it a little room at the top. Just about, I don't know, a 1/16 of an inch, and then with a pencil, go ahead and let's trace our scallops. And you can see that while I was tracing that, of course, this isn't right next to it, so we're going to want to trim about a 1/16 of an inch on the inside of our tracing lines. So now we're just going to be doing some simple fussy cutting and just leaving a little border . You know, everyone has their own talents, and mine is not cutting when I'm not cutting exactly on a line. So doing this is a little bit more difficult for me than it might be for you. Maybe you're like me and just taking it nice and slow, being patient, and then knowing if I need to, you can always take some sandpaper or a nail file to trim down anything that you need additionally. Or if you've cut too much, you can always cover up those blemishes with some ink. So just kind of eyeballing it. It looks pretty good. You can see when I turn this around, there might be some spots that I might want to take my nail file and kind of sand it to make sure it matches nice and easy. Step 2, we're taking our Garden Fresh paper that's been cut to 6 3/4 by 9 1/2, and we're going to be repeating what we just did with this, but this will be going on our back panel, and it will be the floral side up. So I'm going to have this like so, and then I will go ahead and trace so it's flush on the bottom and the right and left. And now again I will trace and cut out, and I'm just going to trace twice. That way I have extra thick lines that it'll make it easier to know where I'm cutting. And then again, just be sure you're tracing about 1/16 of an inch inside the traced line. Taking Garden Fresh again, we're going to cut 2 pieces that are going to be 4 1/2 by 7 1/2. And then from our chipboard kits, we're going to take out our 2 side walls that have these nice curves, and we will trace these, having one curve go to the right and one curve go to the left. Go ahead and have the right and left walls and the bottom flush. And then we'll trace both pieces. And now we're just going to adhere our blue floral pieces onto the coordinating chipboard. So I'm using some liquid glue, but you can use score tape if you'd like. I like that liquid adhesive gives you that room to kind of smudge things and move things around while it's drying, and it's not so permanent right away. And I'm using one of the industry favorites, the Art Glitter Glue, which I've been turned on to in the last few months, and I'm loving it so much so far. So now I'm just taking my bone folder and using that side edge to make sure that I'm getting a really nice bond with my chipboard and my paper, squeezing out any air pockets. And then with just a damp paper towel, I can clean up my edges. So at this point you can flip it over and see how well you've done. If you have any excess paper that needs to be trimmed back, you can take a nail file or some sanding paper and just kind of file it down, just like you would a nail. And then if you want to go ahead and ink those edges, now would be a great time to do so. So you can see in Annette's sample here, she has inked her edges on her pieces, and it really gives it that nice, beautiful, polished look. So these are the exterior walls of our recipe box. I'm going to put these 2 aside for now and then flip this over. So then we are going to be taking our 1/4 inch chipboard support strips, and we are going to be adhering these to the bottom of the inside of our chipboard back wall. So just from the bottom, taking a pencil and a ruler, we're going to mark a line that's going to be 3/4 of an inch from the bottom, and then we'll mark a second line that will be 2 3/8 of an inch from the bottom. So mark your lines there, and then we will take our chipboard pieces, and these are going to adhere with our line at the bottom. So we'll just adhere each strip just on top of this. So our line that we traced is flush with the bottom of our chipboard piece. These are going to be our drawer support beams, kind of making sure everything stays in place. And take the farmer's market paper we cut in step 1 and adhere this to the back piece on the interior. And then if you need to do any sanding or inking, go ahead and do that. So next we're taking our side panels and we'll be adding paper to the tops of these. So we've cut our granny's quilt. We have 2 pieces that are going to be 4 1/2 and 4 3/4. And then we'll do the same tracing process we've done with our other pieces. This will be flush with the top, right and left, and then traced. It is always nice to have them both set out like this when you are tracing. That way you don't get your pieces confused and accidentally cut 2 of the exact same piece. Not that I would ever have done that or with this project, but it definitely can happen and will happen when you're not paying attention, like I may have done before. So now we'll just go ahead and cut these out. And then adhere those down and sand any rough edges. Step 5, we're going to be putting together our drawer. So we're going to find all 5 pieces that have the A marks on them. You should have 2 shorter pieces, 2 longer pieces, and 1 base piece. And you will note that when the shorter and longer pieces are flush to the bottom, you can see that there is a bit of a difference, about 1/8 of an inch of a difference between the height on those, and that is on purpose. So when we're putting them together, everything will end up being flush. So the first thing we want to do is taking our 2 small side pieces and we'll adhere them flush to the left and right and on top of our chipboard A base. So just taking some nice liquid adhesive. We are going to adhere this down. And we want this to be flush with the edge of our chipboard drawer on the outside, and then both the top and bottom. And I put my water bottle here just there so it has something to lean up against while it's drying. And now we'll do our other side piece. So again, this is going to be flush with the side on the top and to the top and bottom. Let it dry. So now with our long sides, we are going to add adhesive onto the flat side, not the spine, not the little edges. So just go along the edge of both the short sides on the front and then on the bottom, like so. And then this will all be flush with the bottom of our base piece. So now we can just tee up our sides. And then just hold it in place while it dries for a second. And then we'll do the same with our second long side piece. So again, we're just adding a bead or a line of adhesive on the top of the long or the short sides and one of the bottom long sides. Like so. And then find that sweet spot, making sure it's flush with the bottom. And then have those corners meet. And one of the tips here is just having some patience. If you are not accustomed to doing chipboard assembly often, it can take a bit of a learning curve just to kind of get everything down, and patience is key. It's not hard, it's just being patient to work around those little edges and corners. And then there you have it. We should have our box drawer ready to go. And all 4 of your top drawer edges should now be the same height if it's all been put together and ready to go. Step 7, we've cut a piece of handmade to be 9 1/4 by 6 7/8. And then we are going to score all 4 sides of this on 1 3/8. So 1, and then turn, and 1 3/8. Once you've scored on all 4 edges, we're going to go ahead and slit the short edges of each corner. So it should end up like this, where you have 4 tabs on all those score lines. Just go ahead and crease on all those using a bone folder. This is going to be the inside of our drawer, but for now we'll just set that to the side. Step 8, we're going to cut out 2 pieces that are going to be 6 5/8 by 1 7/16, and then 2 pieces that are going to be 4 1/2 by 1 7/16. And then adhere these pieces onto our box. So just finding that nice sweet spot where everything lines up. I just have a tiny bit of a border edge on the top and bottom, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. So just make sure that it's nice in the center, and then holding down from the inside of the box, I'm going to burnish down my piece, but I don't want to not have my finger underneath there, otherwise it wouldn't be stable. And then we'll do the same with the side. And personally, I like putting the adhesive onto my papers over the chipboard. I feel like when you put the adhesive, the liquid adhesive at least, onto the chipboard first, it tends to absorb it faster than the paper does. I don't know if I'm just being crazy, if that's a real thing, but that's what it seems like to me. So the paper seems to not absorb it as fast, I think, as the chipboard. So now I have all of my edges complete in that nice border paper. Next, we're going to cut out our handmade papers to be 6 13/16 by 1 inch and 6 13/16 by 2 1/4 inches. And then in your chipboard pack, there should be coordinating pieces that match this perfectly, and then we'll adhere these onto their coordinating chipboard pieces. Now for step 9, we are going to take our red gingham paper that we've already scored and trimmed. And if you put your box together like Annette did, this should fit perfectly. And you have your little nubs go on the inside. However, I had to do a little bit of modifying with mine to make mine fit in here like nice and smoothly. So everyone's, I imagine, because you're putting it together at home, they might vary just by maybe 1/8 of an inch or so on any side. So just make your measurements or change it according to fit. So mine was kind of a tight squeeze to get it in there. So I did an additional 1/8 of an inch on my shorthand side, and then on my longhand side I did an additional, so on my shorthand side on one side I scored at 1 1/2, and on my longhand side on one side I scored at 1 1/4. And that seemed to be what I needed to do to make mine fit and work in here. So now it fits in here beautifully, but you can see that I do have a bit of some paper edging off over here. So I'm going to trim that off and see if I have any other spaces that I need trimmed. And then just to be, so it's this edge here, let's just trim about 1/8 of an inch or 1/16 of an inch off the edge. And then with these corner nubs, I'm also going to just trim off the corners. So they'll be going in a diagonal from the edge. Now let's see how everything fits insidely. Hopefully we won't be able to see any of those corners poking out, and it'll be nice and smooth. So there you have it. Once I adhere this down, everything should be perfectly smooth. We're all adhered and lined inside. All right, so now we are going to be creating our box. So we're going to take, we have 3 pieces left and they're all the same size. So I'm just grabbing one of those. On the top and the back line, we will be running our liquid adhesive up the back. And then we're going to take our decorative chipboard piece with our little drawer insert notches, and that will be facing forward with the majority or all of our chipboard going that way. And then we're just going to have our back be flush to this wall. So we're just going to hold this down right where we want it and let that adhesive dry. Now we are going to run some adhesive down the side of this wall, our back right hand side, and along the edge. And then we are going to take our piece, our blue piece that curves down with our blue on the left hand side and our blue florals on the right hand side. Step 12, we are going to run some adhesive on the bottom of our 1/4 inch ledge. Like so. And then we're going to adhere down one of our shelves, and this might be easiest done laying on its back side like I have currently and holding it into place. And I'm going to put some adhesive on this edge as well. We're going to take our already prepared red gingham chipboard piece, that 1 inch piece, and this is going to go right on here. So this is not a drawer, this is just a bottom panel, giving it a nice finished look that the chipboard feet, the metal feet can go onto. So I'm adding just a bead of adhesive onto that edge because it is not flush with our latest drawer edge. And then now to the top of this, I will add another line of adhesive. And then this will go flush with our bottom and join with our drawer perfectly. And then with our last piece of chipboard that we haven't done anything with, we're going to take a piece of Granny's quilt that's going to be 6 3/4 by 4 1/2, and we'll adhere this blue side up on the top of this chipboard piece. And now we are going to adhere this onto our second rail. So we'll just add a line of adhesive on there. Just going to kind of cement in that wall. Okay, so I have a line of adhesive there, and then on the right hand side I'm going to add a line of adhesive on my chipboard piece. And laying this flush. And then just hold this in place until it dries. Step 14, we are going to pop out this Farm Fresh chipboard along with these 3 little squares up here that I'll say home. Like so. And then you can use your sanding device that we've been using to get these little chipboard nubbins off, or you can always use your fine tip scissors as well. So we'll sand off those on our Farm Fresh piece, but this piece we're using these little home squares not as decorative pieces but as functional pieces. So we are just going to be creating a little square stack So I'm just going to adhere one square on top of the other. Like so. And then when I have all three of those adhered, I can adhere it onto the center of the back center of my Farm Fresh. This is creating a little label, or not label, a little drawer pull that's going to go perfectly on our drawer. So that way we'll be able to, let me show you our finished drawer. That way we'll be able to have something to pull onto that's nice and stable. So now that that's pretty well adhered, I can just look at which side I like the most and then adhere my label just right in the center, or my handle rather. And then we'll set that aside to dry. Step 16, I'm going to just take my liquid adhesive and run it up the side of my wall that's left unadhered, and then along the bottom. You'll notice I didn't go all the way to the top because our wall doesn't go all the way to the top. So now we can adhere our last wall on there, making sure it's flush with the bottom and back. And now I'm just going to adhere that top shelf to that left-hand side. And then we can take our last gingham piece, and this is going to go just right on top of our top shelf and on the right hand and left hand side walls. So I'm just going to put some adhesive on all of those edges. And adhere that in place when everything is nice and flush. So now we've slid in our drawer now that it's dried, and we're going to take this Home Sweet Home chipboard and we'll adhere this onto the top of the inside of our box where this fits just perfectly. I'm going to leave about 1/4 of an inch of a border like you can see here, and go ahead and adhere that down. A little bit of decorating, so I'm just going to grab these border stickers. I'm going to take all 3 of those, and these are going to adhere onto the top of my box, leaving about 1/4 of an inch of the red gingham showing. And then I'll take that scallop border and just line that up underneath. And then now I have it where I want it. I can just go ahead and trim these pieces to fit. And then to save those for a future project, we can just put those back on our sticker sheet. And then from our farmer's market page, we're just going to do a bit of fussy cutting. So it's just a great way to show you how to take one of these busy papers or some of your leftovers, if you just have a strip here or there, and add your own fussy cut embellishments. And we are just going to cut out some of those elements. So You can see we've got this cute little pea package, 2 carrots, an onion, a shallot, a tomato, and a cucumber. So those are just going to add some fun little elements that we can now add on to our box. So now you can just add your fussy cuts however you'd like. We have arranged some in the top right hand corner and some in the bottom left. We are still going to be adding our feet down here, so you don't want to put anything dimensional or have your fussy cuts covered by the claw feet. So just keep that in mind. And we've added a foam adhesive underneath this tomato just to give it a little more shadow and depth. And then we're going to adhere on our feet 2 at a time. So I'm using some glossy accents for this, but E6000 also works beautifully for gluing on your antique brass feet. These are heavy duty, so it's nice to let 2 dry at a time. So I'm going to let these 2 dry, and then I will do the other side. And then adhere on your other 2 feet and let those dry. Depending on the adhesive that you used, most likely you are going to want to let it dry overnight before you really touch your box too much or start using it, just to make sure it's nice and solid. Once your claw feet have dried, you will have a gorgeous recipe storage box complete with a fun pull-out drawer that's ready for you to add all of your recipes, photos, or whatever you've decided to use this storage box as. We hope that you share your projects with us on social media using that Graphic 45 hashtag. And of course, if you're looking for more fun tutorials like this one, subscribe to our YouTube channel and then hit that notification bell so you know each and every time we create a new fun video to share with you. We thank you for joining, and as always, happy paper crafting!